Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this Lincoln International Business School roundtable discussion. We've got a number of colleagues and students here today, and we're going to have a chat about what it's like studying business and management at LIBS, as we call ourselves, changes we've had to make to the way we do things over the last few months, and how we're going to move forward, and how business and management remains a really, really important area of study for the future. So before we start, we'll do some introductions. First of all, my name's Elaine Clark, and I'm the College Director of Education and Students for Lincoln International Business School. And I'm going to ask the rest of the panel to very briefly introduce themselves to you. I'll go round in the order that I can see people on my screen. Judy, would you like to start?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Judy Turner and I am the International and Employability Manager in the Business School. I'm really looking forward to the discussions today and hearing what everybody else on the panel has to say. So nice to meet you all.
Charlotte.
Oh, there you go. Hi, I'm Charlotte Taylor. I am the Employability and Placements Coordinator for the Business School. I'm again really looking forward to what everyone's got to say, especially in the world of placements and business and how COVID has affected that.
Lovely, thank you, Charlotte. Hal, you're the next person I can see on the screen.
Hello everyone, my name is Hal Quach, Associate Professor in Banking and Finance. I have been working in academia and industry for more than 20 years in the UK, US and in Vietnam. Very nice to meet you today, and yeah, thank you.
Lovely, thanks Hal. Ed.
Hi everyone, I'm an undergraduate student in the Lincoln International Business School. I've done 2 years studying international business management. I did a year's placement, which was cut short slightly due to COVID, but I'd had the experience. And then I'm going back to do my final year in September. So Elena asked me along just to have a student's perspective and answer any questions that you might have.
Lovely, thanks very much, Ed. And Matt.
Hi everyone, I'm a student at the University of Lincoln. I'm an undergrad. Similar to Ed, I'm going into my final year and I've just done a year's placement at NHS Lincolnshire Clinical Commissioning Group. So I've experienced a lockdown with NHS and I'm looking forward to the discussion we have today.
Lovely, thanks very much, Ed. Thakur.
Hi everyone, I'm Thakur Gimiri, Associate Professor in Accounting and Finance. I'm also the Program Leader for MSc Accounting. My background, I worked in firms of accountants before moving to academia. I look forward to discussing with the panel and also taking some questions from the audience as well. Thank you.
Lovely, and Leslie.
Hi everyone, my name's Leslie Jane Stones. I'm an Associate Professor of HRM here at Lincoln International Business School. I spent nearly 30 years in international HR working in Europe and Scandinavia, and then came to academia and now teaching the next generation of people managers and business and management students. So I look forward to some questions.
Lovely, thanks very much, Leslie. I suppose I should have said at the beginning as well that I also do some teaching, and I teach in the area of marketing. So actually we've got a good mix on the panel of the different subject areas that we teach at LIBS. I just thought we'd start off generally. The way we're going to structure today is that the panel will have a discussion probably for about 20 minutes about their experiences, what's happening at LIBS and things like that. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll either pick those up as we go along if they seem directly appropriate, or we'll leave them until the end. And then after about 20 minutes or so, we'll open up the discussion and to anybody who's participating with any questions you may have. Okay, so like I say, just on a general note, we've all been through, you know, quite some change over the last few months. And I just thought maybe we could share some of that, because, you know, when you're studying business and management, virtually everything you can think of somewhere has some implication for people who are making business decisions, whether it's right up front in the foreground or whether it's in the background, making sure that things still run smoothly or whatever. So I just thought maybe we'd share some of, you know, what we'd experienced, either as consumers. I mean, we're all out there in the marketplace. We're all subject to business decisions that other companies make, as well as making our own business decisions. So, I mean, something I was struck by in particular was the speed. I have to say, you know, when lockdown came about, although we could kind of feel it coming and people were already making their own decisions about where they would and wouldn't go and whether they would shake hands and whether they'd be in large groups. So I suppose that's an interesting thing from a business point of view as well, is that, you know, people who deal with your business will ultimately, as consumers, make their own decisions about what they think is appropriate and what isn't appropriate. But then I was really struck by the speed at which businesses of all nature really responded to what we needed to do. Particularly, obviously, things like delivery companies, and suddenly things that you'd never thought of as having delivered, suddenly they were available, and people were finding just, I suppose, simple things like, how do you pack this up to be able to deliver it when it wouldn't normally be something that would be delivered? Those are logistical decisions, etc. Anyway, I've said enough to start with. So I don't know if the rest of the panel want to share some of their perceptions about those initial few weeks, if you like, when we had to go into lockdown, things that struck you about your life and how businesses were responding. Would anybody like to volunteer to go first? Judy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think for me, initially it was, I couldn't believe how quickly the response was from the sort of major companies, really. I mean, you've got, Amazon, those sort of companies must have so much to think about straight away. Even though they're selling virtually, it's how they package things, how they get them to you, and making those sort of changes as quickly as they did. And what amazed me, because I did buy a lot from Amazon while I was on lockdown, it was just one of those things that actually everything still came as and when you ordered it. There really wasn't hardly any sort of delay in delivery. And I think that for me was just amazing. I really couldn't get my head around how, I mean, I've not studied logistics, I've got to say, and having that in my head of how they worked those things out was amazing. I mean, even since, the changes that have happened have just been immense, working out, even for us, trying to just work out the small things of, being at home, just trying to work out how we're going to work, how we're going to work with the students. Those were small things really in comparison to these major companies making these huge changes. So yeah, I totally agree. It was, to be honest, it was amazing how everything was dealt with.
Yeah. Any other observations from the panel?
Okay. From my point of view, actually, I did not experience firsthand, for example, because I didn't end up in the hospital. That means whenever we heard about NSC staff and then the amazing jobs they were doing, and they did deserve the praises, and rightly so, they got the praises. But at the same time, we must not forget the jobs done by supermarket staff, for example, them delivery drivers, and then it was like organized chaos, in my opinion, because when you went to supermarkets, the most of the things were kind of available as well. We kind of never ran out of like certain stuff that we needed, for example, and everyone kind of behaved nicely, and then were helpful to each other as well. Because it was important for us to come together, and then I think the whole nation came together and helped each other out. That is why we didn't really feel that bad, to be honest with you. And then also the difficulty was like from end of January, we kind of saw it was coming because we saw what was happening in China, and then because of the connections we have got with China and other countries, and then we knew that it was coming, but how we would respond was difficult to predict. But I think we responded amazingly well. And then from the staff perspective, some of us were better equipped in terms of having the equipment at home, right, sort of office space at home. We could kind of turn from like the face-to-face delivery to online delivery of lectures, for example. But I was kind of surprised as to how quickly we were able to switch from face-to-face delivery to online delivery, even if we did not have any prior experience of delivering content online. And then also from this point of view, I think one difficulty or challenges for us teachers was that when we were delivering the sessions online, for example, we did not know our students, for example, where they were, what sort of conditions they were in, have they gone back home, or were they still in the country? And then it was very difficult for us to keep in contact with them students and know what is actually happening and what sort of support they need. I think I must praise the ICT department for sort of keeping all these ICT equipment sort of available to those who needed it, for example, our staff as well. Some of them didn't have laptops and they were made available within days. And some students, for example, we could offer them as well. I think it was done really well, I would say. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm writing notes as you speak, Taka, and there are just so many issues that are coming out that are to do with, you know, business and management decisions and studies. We'll come back to a few of them in a minute. But I'm just intrigued. Ed and Matt, you were both on placement when the lockdown happened. Now, if I can go to Ed first. Ed, you said your placement was cut short. Can you sort of describe to us what the situation was in the business you were in?
Yeah, so I was at Enterprise Rent-A-Car at the Heathrow Airport branch. So as you can imagine, the airport wasn't necessarily the best place to be in COVID. So, and essentially the airport ran on all the flights. So all the flights were cancelled and people weren't coming in. And unfortunately, over the country, the company just struggled, as is the same with a lot of companies. We've heard of redundancies, things like that. They just had to reduce their staff load. So it was just, as I was an intern, it was just then made a 9-month placement rather than a 12-month placement, which I was quite fortunate in that I had started in the June before. Otherwise, if I'd have started in the January, obviously I would have only had 3 months of the experience. And I think as much as it was a change of scenery for me and it kind of flipped my world upside down, I think for Enterprise and every other company, they had no idea how to deal with it. It was completely new, wasn't it? No one really could have, although we saw it from January, if you look a year ago, there's no way if you'd have said in 12 months time, you're going to have to cut your staff, close 50%, just things like that. There's no way that they could have prepared for that in that sense, I don't think. So that was why mine got cut short, just purely because of staffing, costs, things like that. But I've still got 9 months worth of great experience, but it just was shorter than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that's great. But see if we can come back to a couple of those issues in a minute. Matt, now you were with the NHS, so what did you see that was happening in your placement world?
Yeah, so it happened fairly quickly actually, because I think we sort of noticed it from a week off, and we sort of we only had senior management who had VPN access, so access to the server at home, and we had a week where there's a big rush to make sure that everyone, all the employees, had the VPN access, so we could do that from lockdown. We were lucky in the sense that Microsoft Teams allowed its access for all NHS employees, so we could use that, because otherwise, it wouldn't have really worked with emails and telephones. I think, nowadays you're looking towards Slack and Microsoft Teams and software applications like that. And yeah, it was very quick in what happened, but very challenging and changed time, because we were also going through a merger at the time. We were merging 4 organisations into one.
Wow, not just
in
2
April.
into 1, 4 into 1.
No, 4 into 1. So that sort of got pushed to the side. So we went through a lot of change throughout then. But it was definitely a good experience, sort of going from working in the office every day to sort of rolling out of bed and working in my flat. So yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah. So can I just pick up then on this bit about placement? I want to come back to some of the topics that you know, students coming to Lincoln will you know, undoubtedly confront in their studies, regardless of which courses they study. But if we can just stick for a while on the placements now, Charlotte, you help our students with their placements, don't you? Now, obviously, we you know, the students who have currently been in placements, we know that a lot of them, even if it was cut short, they'd still have very good experience that was absolutely worthwhile having. But how do you see this going forward? You know, for students who are going to join LIBS in the summer, or indeed for, you know, for our students going into their second year where they'd be starting to make plans for placements. How will it be working from LIBS end?
Well, I think in terms of the experience that the students have had at the moment, I think actually it's been really good for them to see just how different things can be, and that actually you sort of still carry on and you still continue and you get to the end. In terms of the students that are, because we have a group of students now who are supposed to be starting their placement by September, October time, and obviously their search has changed a lot and the recruitment process has changed into being online based, a lot more sort of Skype sessions, stuff like that. We have found that the students who are starting their placement now, a lot of them are starting to work from home, which is a really big change for them because they're obviously going into a new company, completely different. And I think in a sense it will be a little bit harder for them because they don't have that experience of meeting everyone face to face and seeing like the office environment. But a lot of them are working from home for a period of time, and then they are hoping to go back into the business when it's safe and when they open properly. In terms of the students that are going into second year, so looking for a placement, and those in first year as well, I mean, we're all hoping that it's going to go relatively back to normal. I know I want it to go back to normal. It's difficult to say. Oh, well, in 12 months' time, everywhere will be open again, or in 12 months' time, we'll be in another lockdown position. It's so hard. I think it's that unknown sort of thing that's really difficult to sort of get your head around, but we are really hoping that things do get back to normal. And if they don't, we're sort of going forward with the, okay, you're working from home, how can we support you in that? How can that sort of, how can you still have a really good placement experience and it'd be a little bit different to what we're used to?
That's really interesting because of course I joined LIBS during the early stages of lockdown, so I actually haven't been to, apart from going to campus for my interview and things, I actually haven't you know, been in my office. There's quite a lot of colleagues I haven't met face to face, and I have to say everybody has been absolutely brilliant. And yes, it's different, but I now, you know, after 4 months, not quite, I feel absolutely at home. It would have been different, obviously, if I'd been on campus and able to pop out for a coffee with people now and again. But I do feel absolutely at home and part of things. Just because we're talking about employability, and Judy, did you have anything you wanted to add about how we help our students to enhance their employability so that they, you know, that they are able to cope with these changes in situations and make themselves as attractive as possible, if you like, to future employers, regardless of what the situation might be?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that, and I think actually this happens within their modules as well, is a lot of the time we teach them about change management, about how they actually cope with certain situations, about, I mean, adaptability is probably the scale for most employers. And actually that's when our students have really shown their strength. So, for example, Ed and Matt, you know, when it comes to the changes happened, you have to be adaptable. And that happens whether or not something like, you know, COVID is actually happening. What we try and do is lead the students through different scenarios. So obviously we work really closely with careers and employability team, who do put on different sessions for the students, and a lot of students take part in those, and a lot of those is to do with resilience and adaptability and confidence, which in this situation are probably the biggest things that they needed to actually cope. I think, you know, a lot of our students are strong in those areas anyway. We just need to make sure that we keep them updated in how to keep going with things like that. I mean, I think it was Ed that said this is something you could not have preempted this situation. So as much as we can put those put those capabilities in place for you to become as adaptable as possible, really it was up to the individual to learn how to cope with it. What's been really sort of amazing for us is actually we have something called the Global Lounge, and on that Global Lounge we have an area specifically for employability. And as soon as everything started happening with COVID-19, we started filling that up with things to do while this is happening. So how to make yourself more employable at this time, how to cope if you are employed at this time. And that was coming from a lot of companies outside of the university, the careers and employability department, but also there was a lot of student-led information that we have on there about how students themselves have coped with it. So for us, you know, we are always, for us, the key thing is making sure that the student is in a position where they understand how to be adaptable in those situations. And a lot of our students really are fantastic at that already.
That's quite interesting about the employers, because I know some people have wondered how is it possible to carry on the relationships that we're used to having with employers in that kind of situation. So, for example, you know, employers come in as guest lecturers, they come in and watch student presentations, they help us design assignments, they set challenges for the students. And actually, after an initial, you know, oh my goodness, how can we make this happen? Actually, it worked brilliantly, and I mean, I was doing it myself on one of my modules, and we could even say in some cases it was actually easier to engage with employers and get them involved when it was online, because you don't have to worry about the time people might spend traveling.
Yeah.
So worrying about taking big chunks out of somebody's time for them just to get here. You know, all the student presentations we could do online, so the employer could still see and ask questions and everything. So actually, there was definitely no reduction. And you know, I know a lot of staff, as they're designing their modules for this coming year, are actually finding, you know, lots of opportunities that they might not otherwise have had, because now they know they can do it online. We've that practice.
I do think employers, actually, for them, you know, we've been engaging with employers virtually for a long time, and I think, like you've said, for us, especially as an international business school, it gives us the capability to be able to really become international and interact in a way that, you know, we've probably found we've not done as well in the past. So, I mean, I had a meeting this morning with a company in Romania, and it was easy, and, you know, it's quite a simple thing, and everybody's so used to doing it. So again, it's the adaptability is all the way around. It's for the companies, it's for the students, and it's for us. And I think we're, you know, to be honest, I think everybody's done that particularly well.
Yeah, that's been great. Can I just ask if I can come to the academic members of staff now? As people have been speaking, I've been frantically writing notes about, all of the implications for what's gone on in terms of, why would you study business and management? And I would say now more than ever. I mean, there's that thing about nobody could have envisaged it happening. But also we look at scenario planning, don't we? And we look at scanning the external environment and being, trying to anticipate what trends there might be and whether they're going to be of major significance or minor significance, and looking for those signals. So we did, although yes, nobody saw this coming, we nevertheless, and as we said, people saw those signals, or when they were happening, and even before governments had necessarily taken action, business people had made decisions. This is how I need to respond. This is how I need to communicate with my customers. This is how I need to change my operations. This is how I work with our international customers, with our international suppliers, etc. There's all this question of how do we scale up particular activities? How do we reduce some? How do we recognize those needs? How can we make sure we have the right equipment in place and all of that? I just wonder, from the three academics that we've got here, from their point of view, can you perhaps share something from your modules or your programs that would cover the kind of things and just show how important having that insight into business and management decision making is important as we go forward. I don't know, Hal, would you want to make a start?
Right, yeah. I founded and run a student managed fund, which is managed by students and run by students with supervision from a panel, which includes experts from the industry. So I have to say that we have been running the fund for 5 years now, and especially virtually. So we run virtual office. So during the lockdown, our experience is actually the same, because actually we have been doing it for quite a long time. In terms of the plan for next year, as you can see, that we from our point of view, we still stick to online environment. So the plan for the student managed fund is to enable more students to join us. So that's why we have the student managed fund activities timetable from next year. So that means more students will have free time to participate in the fund's activity. That could enhance their employability. The reason why we believe that should be useful and helpful for students is because we believe in challenge-based teaching. Let me explain a little bit here, because traditional approach to teaching always give problems to students and ask them to solve the problems that we set. But with challenge-based teaching and with the student managed fund, we allow them to identify the problems by themselves and then try to give the solution to the problems that they have identified. Because we set only the only goal that they should make the investments that are profitable. Their goal is to make return, and they have to do everything from research to writing reports to present to convene investment committee about their decision.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought, carry on.
Yeah. And with that, we believe that we try to scale up that kind of activity for students from next year. So that is also included in the assignments for students. So for two of my modules that I'm teaching next year, I will reduce the amount of, I change the assessment from exams and coursework to only 100% coursework assignment.
Yeah.
And in that, students are allowed to work in group first, and then they write individual reports. And the purpose is for them to write the investment reports that could be used for investments. Because with the fund, we use real money to invest in shares of company listed on London Stock Exchange. So the purpose is for them to link the results from their assignment to investments with the funds and with real money.
That's really good.
That is something we try to create for students next year. And once again, I have to say that we have been doing this for a few years, but from this year, it's scaling up.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. I've got a question I'll come to in a second, but just a couple of points you made there, Hal. I mean, you mentioned problem-based learning, which obviously we do a lot of, which is where we know there's an issue, could be a problem, or it could be an opportunity, and how do you seize that opportunity? So of course we have a lot of real life types of problems that we get the students to engage with, and this if you like, one step on from there, this challenge-based learning that we've been doing, and the great thing is, as you say, about scaling up, and we're looking at scaling up challenge-based learning across the board as well. And the good thing about that kind of thing is that it gets the students to think in all directions, not just necessarily very narrowly focused, but what are the implications all round for the kind of challenge a particular organisation or a particular sector might be faced with. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I will come back to our two other members of academic staff. We've got a question from Flower Power. Hello there. What business school specific clubs or societies are there, please? So obviously the managed investment fund is an activity that students get involved with. And I know there is a business society. Yeah, Judy, do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, we basically there are actually quite a few that are specific to the business school. So we obviously have the Business Society and the Economic Society as well, who we work very closely with, and who actually take part in a lot of things within the business school. We're quite lucky within the business school. Our students are very focused and want to take part in as many things as possible. So the Business Society and the Economic Society are really sort of involved in a lot of things. So if you wanted to get involved in one of them, in one of the more academic societies, they would be the ones, as well as the the investment fund as well. We also have something called, because I think the question was about societies and clubs, we also have something called the cultural exchange sessions, which are student-led and are also run by staff as well. These are to give the students some intercultural experience, different countries, and also some language experience. And like I say, these are run by students and staff as well. And also we have Women in Work Society we work very closely with, obviously for the employability status as well, and the Global Certificate, which obviously is part of what we run in the International Employability team. We actually sponsor some of the events that are put on by these areas, so we support all of the things that they do as well.
Yeah, and of course there are lots of social societies as well that are at university level, plenty. Yeah. But also what occurred to me as well is that a lot of our courses are attached to professional bodies, and there's often, most professional bodies have a student status so that people can join as students, and then there are also lots of networking events and things that go on with the professional body student societies as well. I don't know if Ed and Matt want to say anything about student societies, anything that you were aware of or were part of?
Obviously it was, sorry Matt, if you were going to, obviously it was a year ago that I was at Lincoln, but I attended quite a lot of the business society events as well. So obviously they put on, what Judy said is there's a big presence on campus of that side. I think because the business school is so large, actually the society has so much to do with it as well, and has such an influence on the events that happen, things like that. The business society always has a presence over the events that are going on, and that was something I definitely noticed in the first 2 years that I was there, is that you see them everywhere basically.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Because it means, I guess, if you miss the boat, or if you're a little bit shy when you first join, the fact that they're still, they're still visible means you can join in at any time.
Absolutely,
you don't miss the boat just because you. That's great. Charlotte, you were wanting to say something, I think.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add to Judy's comments about the societies and stuff. There's also a lot of extracurricular stuff of value that doesn't attach itself to a society. So, for example, we run the mentoring scheme, which is a really good sort of way to get in touch with local business professionals, and students are paired up based on career interests. So I just thought that was really important to mention as something else, just sort of business school specific. We've also got things like the University Business Challenge, which is a really good competition where you go and sort of make a proposal as well. And so I think in terms of the societies, they're amazing. They're so good for running events, having guest lectures and working with us. But we've also got quite a lot of stuff that is sort of open to business school students as well.
Some of these competitions are international as well, aren't they? So students get to travel to another country. You know, if you get through to the finals and things, you get to go.
Yeah, amazing opportunities, amazing.
Students from other universities around the world.
Yeah.
They're great, lovely. Sorry, Ed, Matt, I wasn't sure if you were going to say something about the societies as well. Apologies if I skipped over you.
No, not really. I think Charlotte and Ed have covered everything. I mean, there is sports societies. I'm not part of any, but I know about them, and you know, there's loads of things to do.
Okay.
So
lovely. Just wanted to come back to and give Tucker and Leslie an opportunity to come in here about, you know, the curriculum kind of things and how the kind of things that our students will learn will you know, equip them for the future, which you know is obviously now a lot more uncertain than we thought it was before. Leslie, from the point of view now, you've got a very broad department, haven't you, with the title management, but you cover all kinds of things in your department. Can you perhaps give us a couple of examples of things that the students would get involved in?
Yes, I've had a lot of contact actually recently since COVID-19 broke from students past that I've taught, because I on one of my modules in leading and managing people, I talk about the VUCA environment, so the volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous environment. We talk about agile working, we talk about employee well-being and resilience. And we try as much as we can to go through some scenarios. We look at case studies, we get people in from industry to talk about problems that they've had, and the students then work their way around it. A lot of my ex-students have contacted me recently and said, we absolutely get it now. We know what you were talking about. This is happening in real life. It's really happening. And you know, thankfully, we know what to expect, and we know where to start to deal with some of the problems. So it's good to know that it works. So yeah, in the Department of Management, we've got programs from business and management as a whole. We've got programs that bring in finance, and we've got business with finance, business with marketing. So it's recently been merged. We used to be people and organisations and strategy and enterprise. So within our department, we've got a wide range of skills. So we can be teaching anything from logistics, which we've spoken about today with Amazon and delivery companies, right through to just purely HR. So I think you asked a question earlier, Elaine, why study business now? And I think, you know, there has never been a better time. I think it would be a great opportunity for students. Listening to Ed and Matt talk about their placements, and I know coming back into your third year after having done a placement and been in an organisation, your assignments, your writing, your experience will really help you in this final year towards your final degree. I think students will learn an awful lot during this time because industry is now reacting. What is the new way of working? That's the big question. What will work look like? Will we continue to work from home? So I'm planning now my modules for the next academic year, and I've got people lining up and saying, can I come and do a guest lecture? I want to tell you about this. I want to tell you about our experiences as an organisation. So yes, many more opportunities to have guest lectures in, and they don't have to travel, and they can ring in and dial in from anywhere in the world. So I've got people from all over Europe and Scandinavia as part of my modules this coming year.
It's quite interesting because I used to, when seeing our advisory board in a previous iteration, one of the things they said to us, you should absolutely get your students involved in, is crisis management.
Yeah.
And you know, now we've got, you know, I mean, obviously a tremendously sad situation for many people. But also so much learning that has gone on, and so much that we can gather together and use to help our students to, you know, to develop, to meet the future and its uncertainty and potential crises and things. I'm aware that we're going on a bit longer than 20 minutes, but I am keeping an eye out for questions and things. Taka, if I can, this discussion as a whole, before we open it up to questions, if I can give you the final word in terms of, you know, the programs and the experiences that are offered around your course and your department.
Thank you, Elaine. First of all, like in my own department, when you're talking about financial accountancy, most of us have got professional background, and we are still connected with the professional bodies, and also we do meet with the business people in a regular basis, and also we update our curriculum based on the changes that is happening in the real world. For example, when the accounting standards change, our curriculum, we just make sure that it is up to date. And why study business? And from our point of view, if you want to become an entrepreneur, for example, you might be good at spotting opportunities, and then but you might lack organizational skills. For example, you might lack the skills to manage a business, run a business properly. If you don't do that, even if you can sell your products, but you might fall short in other skills, and you might end up being out of business, for example. So because initially it may be difficult for you to hire a professionally qualified accountant, but you may need basic skills. And if you think about like the crisis now, what's happening is those companies who could adapt, who could see the problem coming, for example, they've done very well. And those who couldn't adapt, for example, might have faced serious issues. So we teach students how to manage the cash, how to, you know, look after cash flows and stuff like that, and also other skills. Things like ethics also is important part of our curriculum as well, because I deliver a module called financial accountancy module. And what we do is we discuss the importance of running an ethical business, for example, and what are the sort of benefits you get from running ethical businesses, what sort of ethical investment you can attract. And also in our assessments, we embed like what's happening in the current world as well. So when you got the group presentation, this provides us opportunity to go through the companies that kind of struggled with it and companies that have done very well during this crisis. And then students can kind of sort of discuss that and then present in front of the panel, for example. So there are opportunities for students to learn what's happening in the real world and get that sort of experience and then the knowledge when they go and even they run their own company or they go and work for someone else, for example. So we teach the vital skills necessary to run a business.
Yeah. Absolutely, that rounded skills. I think no matter which program you're studying, you will get a rounded experience as well as any specialism that you've signed up to, because everybody needs to have an understanding of the organisation as a whole. Lovely. Okay, we'll stop there and see if we have some questions from our participants. I have one here from Antonio, who would like to know what is PRME and how does it benefit my education? Okay, so PRME, we actually, when we're referring to that we call it PRIME. We pop a little extra M in there so it rolls off the tongue better. And it actually stands for the Principles of Responsible Management Education. This was brought about, more than 10 years ago, actually. I'm trying to think whether it was as long ago as 15, but certainly more than 10 years ago. The Principles for Responsible Management Education were founded in conjunction with the United Nations, and that they are what they say they are. They are, you know, business schools sign up to focus their whole education, their student experience, their curriculum, to ensure that we are teaching our students to be responsible managers. So that, as Taka has alluded to, that means behaving in an ethical manner, behaving with integrity, making sure we judge the impact, the societal impact, the environmental impact, sustainability implications of management decisions. And Lincoln is absolutely committed to PRIME, and we have specialists in the school who've who've done doctorates in the subject. We have a professor who specializes in this, and it's absolutely embedded throughout everything that we do. You know, some of the challenge-based learning that we do, for example, would be around sustainability projects. So you can rest assured that you know, PRIME is absolutely key, and it's very prominent. You know, as I mentioned earlier, that I recently joined LIBS, and it's very prominent here in LIBS. It's a genuine commitment to making sure that we not only teach the principles of responsible management, but that we act them out in what we do as well as an organisation. So you will absolutely be involved in those if you are part of Lincoln International Business School. Okay, does anybody have any more questions that they'd like to ask of the panel that we're here? Okay, so while we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions, is there anything else that the panel would like to say as a final word that they feel maybe we haven't touched upon in the discussion so far? Judy.
Hi, yeah, I just sort of wanted to just add a couple of things in terms of sort of getting to know the business school. I've actually worked for the university for about 7 years now, but I've actually only been part of the business school for about a year and a half. And in terms of the dedication to getting the employability prospects through, to creating community, to actually, even especially in the past couple of months, having spoken to students who have been going through a hard time with what's happening in the world at the moment, how engaged our academics are with our students. And that's, you know, that's something that I'd never noticed in any other place that I'd ever worked, was how engaged our academics are with our students, and how much influence that has on the type of education that you actually get within the business school. You know, not only are we international in terms of how we bring in students and the types of students we have and that wonderful diversity, we are diverse in the types of academics that we have, the different cultural backgrounds that we come from. And, you know, it's really highlighted to me quite how international we are, even within somewhere as sort of small as Lincoln, that we are completely international within our community.
Yeah. That's lovely. Thanks very much, Judy. We've got a question from Marta, who's wondering if we could tell her about any PG opportunities that are available to students. So postgraduate opportunities. Well, Marta, so much of what we've spoken about will apply to postgraduates as well. The student societies generally are open to all students, whatever level. And the degree of involvement is entirely your choice, whether you want to be on the committees and helping to organise things or take part in events and things. The Global Award is something that our postgraduate students do as well. What you would find as a postgraduate student is that your teaching sessions are more likely to be slightly longer, so you'd probably be together with your tutor and your fellow students for a block of 3 hours in many cases. But what then happens is that that's operated more as a workshop, rather than maybe a traditional lecture or a seminar, that you have that 3 hours together and you really get into the nitty-gritty of issues and problems, and there'll be some little bits of input and activities and feeding back and all of that going on within the same session. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything that is specifically about postgraduate.
Okay, Marta, from my point of view, when you talk about PG opportunities, are you talking about the PG courses we've got? You could study various programs. If you could check our website, for example, you'll find a number of programs depending on your own background and your own interest. You should be able to pick up a course.
Yeah, and of course, some of those postgraduate courses, some of them are specialist and will build upon undergraduate studies, but there are also those that, if you've done a specialist undergraduate study and you now want to, if you like, top it off with some more generic business and management, we've got an MSc in management, or the other way round. If you've done a general business and management degree and you'd like to come in and specialize a little bit more to take you into a particular area, so that there is a broad array of opportunities. But generally, and indeed the study abroad opportunities, the internship opportunities, placements, we absolutely encourage our postgraduate students to take part in those every bit as much as our undergraduate students. There is, I want to say the sky's the limit. It almost is, actually. I don't know if anybody else wanted to add something to that. Judy, I know your team deal, every bit as much with graduate as you do with undergraduate in terms of internationalization, employability.
I think a lot of in terms of the extracurricular that you can get involved in as a postgraduate, it feels like, as you said, it's almost never ending. Not only is there a lot of university-wide things that you can get involved with, but specifically within the business school, there are, like Charlotte was saying, we have a business competition, which is actually one of the ones that we do is specifically for postgraduate students and is attached to finance. And we have had James Wright, who is one of our academics, who has actually mentored the students through that. So we have those sort of things, those sort of specific business competitions for postgraduate students. We also have the LIBS 100, which obviously at the moment is a difficult one because it's to do with travelling. But we have specific postgraduate LIBS 100 themed travel opportunities, and they are sort of to fit with certain modules. So everything that we do within the international employability team, we do try and fit with postgraduates or undergraduates and what's best for them in the circumstance that they're in. We work really closely with our postgraduate students who offer a lot sort of student-led trips and things that we actually help them put on. So we have a lot of things that we work with them on, and I think we're quite lucky with the capabilities of our postgraduate students and their capacity to take on huge amounts, even though they're working so hard. It has been astounding. So yeah, there's a lot to take on if you want to come and do a postgraduate degree with us.
Yeah, lots of fun. Lots of fun and hard work at the same time. So that's great. Okay. I haven't seen any more questions come through. I'll just give it a couple of minutes to see if anybody wants to ask anything else. while we're waiting for that, Matt, you're about to come into your final year, as are you, Ed. Any concerns as you come into a different kind of normal from what you went away from a year ago?
For me personally, no, not really. I'm looking forward to seeing what's changed and what's new around the university. But yeah, no, I mean, no concerns really. I don't know about Ed.
I think concerns makes it sound worse than it is. I think it's just, again, it's the unknown, isn't it? I think the uni's done a good job of keeping us as students up to date. It's also on the website as well, which is where I saw a lot of stuff about like how they're keeping it one way to keep the campus safe, things like that, and how lectures are going to be online. Obviously, it could change. We don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. I think it could have been a lot more daunting if we weren't kept in the loop, but actually, as the uni works out what's going on, they're telling us straight away, so we also know what's going on as well. So although it'll be different, it'll still be enjoyable. You still get a degree, still got the high level of teaching. It's just that it's delivered in a slightly different way. That's an
important point, Ed, because you know, for everybody to understand that yes, we are going to have to deliver slightly differently, at least for the first semester in the new year, and part of that is because, you know, we're operating to social distancing according to the government guidelines. So that does inevitably mean we can fit fewer people in each of the classrooms that we have. So some of your experience will be online, and the easiest thing was to say that whereas before you would have sat in a large lecture theatre, those will be online now. And the seminars, which, you know, you guys know, but for anybody new joining us, are the smaller groups where you really get into the nitty-gritty of discussion and activities and things. Those will be alternating. So you'll have some of them face-to-face one week and the others face-to-face the following week. So your group will be smaller than it was, but you will be on campus every week. And then when you're not on campus with those activities, you'll be having online activities and still collaborating with your peers and things like that. So we have, within the constraints that we have in terms of government guidelines, we've actually been working really, really hard. And what's been really nice to see, actually, I know when, you know, we had to respond to lockdown and everything suddenly went online, people just did the best they could, really, to try and make sure that you guys got the best you possibly could very quickly. But now we've had time, we've learned, the speed with which we've had to learn new digital tools as well. There's been lots of training going on, lots of design work. And what we're designing is a proper digital education now, not just an emergency reaction, if you like. So rather than having, you know, a 50-minute lecture online, which we know is not good practice in online, you'll get little snippets, you'll you know, talk about it, you'll get involved in activity, you'll have another little snippet of input, because that's just how digital education works, and it's much the best way to help people to keep concentrated on what's going on. So we've been doing all of that learning, all of that designing as well. And actually, people have been really, really getting to grips with it, and really, now they've got down to the design work. It's been really heartening to see how enthusiastic people are about the possibilities that are opening up with this digital mix of digital and face-to-face. So I'm really optimistic, and I hope you guys are going to find that it's a really fulfilling experience. Anyway, can I thank the panel very, very much indeed for participating, and special thanks to Ed and Matt. who, you know, they're not obliged to be here, but thank you so much for giving up your time and participating, and thanks for all the wisdom and insight of everybody, and very many thanks to those of you who've been listening in and asking your questions. And this will be available as a recording if you'd like to re-listen or point your friends and families in the direction of this video. Okay, thank you all ever so much, and bye-bye for now. We'll look forward to seeing you.
Why did I choose Lincoln International Business School? I chose it because I fell in love with it at the application day.
I chose Lincoln Business School because after speaking to people about their experiences here, I knew that I'd be happy.
So doing a placement gives you so much more confidence when entering the workplace for the first time, because you've got that experience underneath your belt.
Not only will you learn loads of new things and discover what you want to do in the future, but you also be more determined than ever when you come back to the final year to complete your degree.
Anything I've learned from like marketing to business management, I've put into practice here, and I've obviously improved on it. A year of working in the business, you achieve incredible things.
Hello, my name is Hao Quach. I'm a principal lecturer and program leader for banking and finance. I'm the founder of the Student Managed Fund at the University of Lincoln. The fund is organized the same way as any professional investment company in the real world. It is one of only few of this kind in the UK. Students participating in the fund have the opportunities to meet with experts from the field, and they are given additional trainings to their works.
So one of the things I enjoy about being a member of Ailsmith is that I get to learn in a practical sense, which I find much more enjoyable and interesting than just learning straight from a textbook.
Being part and a member of investment fund is getting many benefits, and the most I enjoy the personal feedback from industry experts.
Also, it's a great way to develop presentation skills and soft skills, which are highly important for the world of work.
The ultimate goal of the fund, therefore, is for students to gain work experience while they are studying at the University of Lincoln. That helps them prepare for the job market after graduation.
Hi, so I'm Eleanor Priest and I've graduated today with a first class honours in business and finance. I can't even put into words how amazing it was to sit in that cathedral, which is stunning. Like, the pictures don't even do it justice. It just feels so surreal, and it's amazing to celebrate with everybody that you've worked with for the past 4 years, and obviously all your family who have supported you throughout. So yeah, it's been amazing, and it's definitely one of my highlights from university.